Uh, So, Dean Boyd, you recently sent a memo to staff members regarding what you say is a false belief that there is a zero tolerance policy in place for certain violations of the code of conduct, correct?
Right. Well, what happened is a number of students, or I'm sorry, faculty, uh, were operating under the belief that we had a zero tolerance policy. Well, that does not exist. So we can't operate that way because then it would violate the student code of conduct.
Do you feel that this idea is widespread among staff members in general, or is it limited to certain departments or individuals?
I think it was widespread. It used to exist, but in the last draft, it was removed, and most people weren't aware of that.
Do you feel that this idea is also common among students?
I don't believe so. I don't believe students, I don't think many students know the code of conduct. They should. It's available to them, but how many of them actually read it?
Do you feel that the faculty is also unfamiliar with the code of conduct?
That's a good question. I wouldn't want to speak for them since I haven't spoken to them about it. I think they're aware that it exists, but in terms of knowing it in its entirety, I wouldn't know that.
Have you considered any specific ways that you could help familiarize students and staff with the code of conduct?
Well, one of the things, it's distributed to new students during orientation. I think a good thing we can do is to have training for the student code of conduct for all faculty and staff.
All right. In the memo, you say that there seems to be it seems that certain individuals may have a problem with how you're doing your job.
Well, more or less, anytime you're working in an organization, you're always going to have people who sort of armchair quarterback it, talk about what they would have done if they were in a position. It's like if I were to, say for instance, disagree with the president, I could say, well, if I were president, I would do X, Y, Z. Problem is, I'm not the president. And so it happens in every organization, and no one has said anything directly to me, but you know, I've heard things indirectly.
You also say that you try to work to help students understand the violations as opposed to outright punishing them. How do you normally treat a student's first violation?
Well, it depends on the first violation. I think the most important thing to do in any violation is to understand what happened, and then from there make a decision. Sometimes you get a more clear picture when you look at things from all angles, as opposed to looking at it from one side.
What steps do you take to prevent further violations?
Well, one of the things we try to do is similar to a court system. It's kind of like probation. You know, they have different terms that they have to follow. They meet those terms at the end of a semester, they stay in school. If they don't, then they can be dealt with more harshly.
And how do you decide when it's necessary to expel a student?
As a person with a degree in educational administration, the one thing I try to look at is higher education law. But what it stems from is a student cannot be expelled without a hearing unless they pose an immediate threat. According to the United States Supreme Court, I can't suspend you without a hearing. Once something has been charged, we have to give you everything in writing. And after you've received the charges against you, we have 3 days in which to give you a hearing. We're bound by the Code of Conduct, which outlines how the process works.
And how exactly is the code of conduct devised?
It's a legal document. It's a document that was drafted by the previous Dean of Enrollment Management and Student Development Services. It's approved by faculty, council, and then ultimately approved by the Board of Trustees. The Board of Trustees must approve everything. So that gives us the legal background we have to implement this.
Is it revised on a regular basis?
It's in the process of being revised, but again, until the revisions are formally adopted by the Board of Trustees, then we operate on the current one, which was last revised or last adopted in November of 2008.
Okay. Do grades have an impact on whether a student gets expelled or not?
Not at all. I think the only way grades would have an impact is for a student who consistently violates the code of conduct. Then that's when I would take it into account.
Does financial aid or ability to pay have anything to do with them staying or getting kicked out?
That would be discrimination in terms of social economic status. That's violating so many different policies and rules and regulations and just common morals.
Can you tell me what the 4 expulsions were for and why was the one overturned?
Well, 2 of the expulsions were for violations of the code. They had pellet guns. Another student had ammunition. Those are clear violations. You know, they could be used against people. They could be used to harm people. They were expelled on the spot. The other expulsion was overturned because it went to the Student Affairs Committee and the case was presented, and because the student who was expelled had never been in trouble before, they decided to give the student probation as opposed to the outright expulsion.
Can you provide expulsion rates for the past few years?
I don't have those numbers. I've only been in this position since September. So, but again, in this school year, we've had 3 expulsions. We have approximately 1,300 students. So it's very minuscule.